Welcome to my YouTube channel, students. In this tutorial we will be discussing the complete review test prepared by me, in which we will be covering the entire syllabus of SAT subject test mathematics. In this tutorial I will be explaining you the concept in details of each and every topic, so that you can use this tutorial just before one day of exam as well, to brush up your concept at the last moment. I will explain you the shortcut tricks, how to solve the questions within few seconds to save time in exam. That will be very important at the time of exam. If you will be able to save even few minutes, then you can focus on those problems which may be little lengthy and consume more time. Keeping the target 100% in mind, let's get started. So students, this is our first question. Here we have two numbers x and y, such that their sum is equal to 3 times their difference. So let's write this condition first. Here sum, that means x plus y equals to thrice of x minus y, it is given, right? We can just simplify this one. X plus y equals to, just expanding this bracket here, so 3x minus 3y. Now combining the x terms and y terms, or taking x terms on one side and y term on the other side, we will get y plus 3y equals to 3x minus x. Very simple, right? From here we can get 4y equals to 2x, and this implies x upon y equals to 4 upon 2, right? We can just cancel these two terms, we will get 2 upon 1. Getting the point, students? So here what we have done, just interchanging these two digits, right? Here we have written x, this one, x of this part x, right, and y of this one. Here we have written y, right? And we have written 4 here, this one, and 2, the coefficient of x here, right? So in this way we get the ratio x upon y here. Very simple. So x upon y is equal to 4 by 2, which is equal to 2 by 1. So this implies x equals to 2 and y equals to 1. Very simple, right? Now what we can do, just putting the value of x and y in this given equation, right? In this given equation, here we will get 3 into x is 2 and y is 1. So 3xy upon 2 into x square, which is 2 square minus 1 square, right? After simplifying, 3 into 2 is 6. So 6 upon 2 into 4 minus 1, which is 3, and 6 upon 2 into 3. So 3 into 2, 6, and both of these terms get cancelled, we will get 1 only. So the value of this one is 1. So option number B is correct here. So we will get our answer here, right? So we have our answer, which is option number B. Just using this condition, x plus y is equal to thrice of x minus y, and simplifying that, we will get our result, and we get the ratio of x and y. By putting the value of x and y in the given equation, we got our answer. So that's our first question. Now let's move forward and discuss our second question here. So students, this is our next question. Here we have two terms like x plus y plus 3 and x plus y minus 3, and product of these terms we have to find, and we have to tell which option is correct. So let's write first these two terms. This is x plus y plus 3 into x plus y minus 3, right? So here we have x plus y in this bracket and x plus y in this bracket as well, right? In both the terms we have x plus y. So let us assume that this is capital A and this is also capital A, and this is 3 number is B, and this 3 is also B. So we have a formula like this one: a plus b into a minus b. Very simple, right? So here we can easily find a plus b into a minus b is nothing but a square minus b square, right? Here you need not to multiply each term like this way, x into x, then again x into y, then x into minus 3 and y into this one, right? It is going to take too much of time and it is going to consume a lot of time of yours, right? So we have to apply little techniques here. At least we have to find what sort of formula and which type of formula we can apply to solve the problem more quickly and more efficiently. By using these formulas, the chances of error will reduce, right? So here we can easily write a plus b whole square is nothing but x plus y whole square minus 3 square, right? So do we have our answer here? If we can check the options here, we can still find that our option is not matching yet. So let us expand this bracket now, right? So x plus y whole square is nothing but x square plus y square plus 2xy with minus 9, right? So is it matching here now? X square plus y square plus 2xy. See, option number B, right? So option number B, you can just check. This is our answer, right? So here we get option number B as our answer. So I hope that you can easily understood this method as well. So rather multiplying each term with each other, we have to basically find out whether we can apply any sort of formula here to reduce the timing, right? We have to reduce the time to solve the question, as in the examination hall each and every minute is very important. Got the point? So here we got our answer. So let's move forward towards our question number 3. So students, this is our question number 3. Here we have 4 different terms, and after simplification we have to tell which of the following options are correct, right? So here also we need not to multiply all these terms, right? First, what we have to do, first we have to simplify the first bracket, then second bracket, then third bracket. In such type of problems, we actually have a sort of series, a sort of you can say a pattern, like in this bracket and in this particular bracket and in this particular bracket we will be getting some terms which got cancelled here, right? And after all the simplifications of all these brackets, we will be getting one term or two term like that, which will be our answer, right? So let us simplify the first bracket, which is 1 plus 1 upon x, right? Let us take LCM here, which is x. Now here we will get x into 1, which is x, plus x divided by x, 1, and we'll get 1. So this is our first bracket now, right? First term is this one. Now let us move towards our second term, which is 1 plus 1 upon x plus 1, right? So here we will take LCM, we will get x plus 1 here. Now 1 into x plus 1 is x plus 1 plus 1, right? So we will get x plus 2 here, x plus 2 upon x plus 1, right? So this is our second term now. Now let's move towards our third term. This is 1 plus 1 upon x plus 2, right? Now let's take the LCM here, which is x plus 2. Now x plus 2 plus 1, right? So we will get x plus 3 upon x plus 2, right students? So this is our third bracket now. Now let's move towards our fourth bracket, which is, let's do it here, 1 plus 1 upon x plus 3. Now take the LCM here, we will get x plus 3, here we get x plus 3 plus 1, right? So here we will getting x plus 4 upon x plus 3, which is our final term, that is the fourth term, right? So here this is our, let's highlight it so that it will be easier for you to recognize the terms. So this is our first term and this is our second term and this is our third term, and this is our fourth term, right students? So after multiplying, that means we are going to multiply like this one, 1 into 2 into 3 into 4, right? If we see the pattern here, what we will get here now, see, let's do here x plus 1 upon x into, second term is x plus 2 upon x plus 1 into x plus 3 upon x plus 2 into x plus 4 upon x plus 3, right? So here we can see that we are getting a pattern here, right? Like this x plus 1 got cancelled with this one, and x plus 2 got cancelled with this one, and x plus 3 got cancelled with this one, and we are left with this term x plus 4 and this first term, which is x. So our answer is basically x plus 4 upon x, and which is matching with the option number D here. We can easily find, right? So I hope you understood this concept very easily. I have elaborated each and every step here. So that was our question number 3. Now let's move forward towards our question number 4. So students, this is our question number 4 here. If A and B are different points in a plane, so let us assume A and B are these 2 points in a plane, right? A and B are these 2 points in a plane. And what is the condition here? Then the set of all points in this plane, the sum of whose distances from A and B is constant, right? So here what it is saying, basically, let us assume one point here, let us say this is C. So it is saying that this distance, the sum of these two distances, that is AC plus BC, A and B are different points in a plane, then the set of all points in this plane, the sum of whose distances from A and B, that is AC plus BC, is equal to some constant. AC plus BC equals to some constant, let us say K, right? So every time whenever this point is moving, let us say this point is moving, this is C now, right? This is C now, right? Then here also AC plus BC is constant, right? So we have to tell the locus formed by these points, right? So as we know that the locus of ellipse is what? This is a freehand drawing, so it may be a little bit different. So the locus of these points is basically an ellipse here, right? The locus of these points is an ellipse. Getting the point? So if you know the definition of the ellipse, then you can easily tell the answer here, right? So the locus of all the points where sum of the distances from 2 points A and B is constant is called an ellipse. So here answer is ellipse, right? So we get our answer, which is option number C. So let's move towards our question number 5. So students, this is our question number 5, which is of trigo, and here we have theta, which is lying between 0 and pi by 2. That means theta is lying somewhere here, right? So this is our first quadrant, and this is our second quadrant, and this is basically pi by 2 or 90 degrees, and this is 0 degrees, right? So theta is lying here. Getting the point? So in the first quadrant, and the condition is basically sec square theta plus tan square theta equals to 7, and we have to tell then theta is in terms of radian, right? Theta is, what is the value of theta here? So we know that tan square theta, or we can write like sec square theta is nothing but 1 plus tan square theta. So let us write sec square theta is equal to 1 plus tan square theta plus tan square theta, right? So this is the basic identity which you have to memorize here. 1 plus tan square theta plus tan square theta is equal to 7 here. So this implies adding these two terms, that is tan square plus tan square theta is nothing but 1 plus 2 tan square theta, right? So 2 tan square theta is equal to 7. Now taking this one number towards the right side, we will get 2 tan square theta equals to 7 minus 1, which is 6, right? So now taking this 2 towards the right side, here it is in multiplication, when it goes towards the right it will be in division, right? So tan square theta equals to 6 by 2, which is 3, right? So we get tan square theta is equal to 3. Now let us do some calculation here. So tan square theta is equal to 3. So this implies tan theta is equal to plus minus root 3, right? So we will be having two values of theta here, but as we know that theta is lying between 0 to pi by 2, that means in the first quadrant, so theta is always positive here. So here all the trigo functions are positive in the first quadrant, so we have to neglect the negative value here, and our tan theta will be equals to root 3. Tan theta is equal to root 3, and we know that value of tan theta is equal to root 3 at 60 degrees, right? Tan 60 degrees is equal to root 3, so we can write theta is equal to 60 degree, but we have to tell the answer in radians. So this will be equals to what? Pi by 3. So our answer is, here we can see that option number B is matching here. So our answer is pi by 3 here. I hope you have understood this concept as well. So let's move towards our question number 6. So students, this is our question number 6, and here we are given 2 raised to the power x equals to 7. Then we have to find the value of 5 raised to the power x. So in such question we have to apply the property of logarithm here, right? So what we can do here, just write 2 raised to the power x equals to 7. Now taking log on both sides. So let us take log on both sides. We will get log 2 raised to the power x is equal to log 7. Very simple, right? So here we have to use the property of log m raised to the power n, which is like this, right? Log m raised to the power n equals to n log m. Okay, so we have to use this particular property. If you want to learn a logarithm from basics to advanced level, then you can watch my tutorial on this particular topic, and in that topic I have discussed hundreds of problems on logarithm, and that tutorial is very useful for each and every competitions, whether it is for SAT or any other competition. So let's move forward, and we can write log 2 raised to the power x by using the property like x log 2, which is equals to log 7, right? From here we can simply write x equals to log 7 upon log 2, right? We can easily write x equals to log 7 upon log 2. Now log 7 and log 2, value of log 7 and log 2 we can easily find out by using our calculator. So students, using this calculator we can easily find log of 7, right? Log of 7 equals to 0.845. So we can write this value here, and also we can easily find out the value of log 2 by using this calculator. So here log 2 equals to 0.301, right? So we can use this value of log 7 and log 2 in our solution. Now putting the value of log 7 here, we will get 0.845. okay, so 0.845 divided by 0.301. so after division we will get the value is 2.8, right? If you divide it by using your calculator, you will easily find the value is equals to 2.8. Now what? We got the value of x equals to 2.8, right? Now we have to find the value of 5 raised to the power x. That means 5 raised to the power 2.8, right? Now let's move towards our calculator and find this particular value of 5 raised to the power 2.8. So now students, we can easily find the value of 5 raised to the power 2.8 by using the calculator, by pressing 5 here. Now we have to raise the power to 2.8, so we have to use this exponents, right? So here we have to write now 2.8, right? So 2.8, which is equal to 90.59, right? So we got our answer like 90.59. So students, we got our answer like 90.59, right? 90.59, and we can see that option number A, see option number A is same as 90.59. So here we have already find out the value of 5 raised to the power x. I hope you have understood this concept, and if you are unable to understand the concept of logarithm, then you can easily refer my tutorial on logarithm, which is from basics to advanced. There are approximately 37 videos in that, and that is from basic to advanced, and very useful for every competition. So this is question number 6. Now let's move towards our question number 7. So students, this is our question number 7. Here we have to find x square plus y square plus 6x plus 5 equals to this, and sorry, we have to find the value of x minus y. The given condition is just we can write it here. It is x square plus y square plus 6x plus 5 equals to 4 into x minus y, right? Now what we can do, just we have to simplify the RHS term here first, and we will move step by step. So here x square plus y square plus 6x plus 5 equals to 4x minus 4y. Taking these two terms towards the LHS, right? Taking these two terms towards LHS, we can write the equation like this one: x square plus y square plus 6x plus 5 minus 4x and plus 4y. Okay, this is minus because positive sign is here, and this will become positive, right? This term will become positive here. Now putting x terms together like this one, x square plus 6x, by simplifying the first x terms, like 6x minus 4x by combining these two terms, and if there is any y term, we can just write it like this way: plus y square plus 4y and plus 5, okay, equals to 0, sorry, equals to 0. Now 6x minus 4x is nothing but 2x, okay, we can write it this way: x square plus 2x, okay, plus y square plus 4y, y square plus 4y plus 5 equals to 0. Now if, see here, if x square plus 2x is there, okay, and if we can just write plus 1 here, okay, plus 1 here, then this term will become x square plus 2x plus 1 is nothing but x plus 1 whole square, right? X plus 1 whole square. So we have taken 1 from 5, okay, from this particular 5 we have taken 1, so 4 will remain here. Then the other term which will remain here is y square plus 4y plus 4, okay. Now this term is nothing but, we can write it this way: y square plus 2 into 2y plus 2 square, okay. So this is basically y plus 2 whole square, right? So this is basically y plus 2 whole square, and this is x plus 1 whole square, okay, x plus 1 whole square. So this is equal to 0. So if we know that if a square plus b square equals to 0, so that means a square should be equal to 0 and b square should be equal to 0, okay, cause this is the square term and this will never be negative and this won't be negative here. So that means we have to compare a square with 0 and b square with 0 here, okay. Now a square is nothing but x plus 1 whole square is 0, or we can just write x plus 1 equal to 0, and similarly y plus 2 equals to 0 here, right? Now this implies x equals to minus 1 and y is equal to minus 2. So what is our question? Basically x minus y is what? So x is minus 1 and minus of y, which is minus of 2, and this implies this minus minus is plus 2. So minus 1 plus 2 is nothing but 1. So do we have answer 1 here? Yes, option number A is our answer here. So answer 1 is available in option number A. So that was our question number 7. Now let's move towards our question number 8. So students, this is our question number 8, in which we have to find the equation of a line that contains the point minus 5 comma 2. So what does it mean here? That means if we have any standard equation of a line or any line ax plus by plus c equals to 0, or let us assume this is the line, right? So if this is the line, that means this x and y point, that means minus 5 comma 2 minus 5 comma 2 will always lie on this line, right? Will always lie on this line, and the equation of this line should satisfy these 2 points. Basically these 2 coordinates, or we can say this point, will satisfy x and y coordinate of this particular line. Okay, now what is the condition here? The condition is the line is basically parallel to the y-axis. So this line is basically parallel to the y-axis. Let us take the axis here. This one is the axis, this is the x-axis, and this is the y-axis. So this line is parallel to the y-axis and this line is perpendicular to the x-axis, obviously, right? This line is perpendicular to the x-axis. That means angle formed by this line is 90 degree with the x-axis, right? That means tan 90 degree is formed, or we can say tan theta is equal to nothing but tan 90 degree, which is, we can write 1 by 0. Okay, not defined, 1 by 0 here. So that means the slope of the line is 1 by 0. So equation of any line having, which is passing through, x1 comma y1, equation of any line which is passing through x1 comma y1 and having the slope m is of the form y minus y1 is equal to m into x minus x1, right students? So this is basically a point which is given. That means we have this particular point x1 comma y1 and the slope of the line is m, which is 1 comma 0 here, 1 by 0 here, right? So we can just put the values of x1 and y1 here like this one, y minus y1, y1 is nothing but 2 and slope is 1 by 0 here, and x minus of minus 5, right? So x minus of minus 5 here. So what is the result here now? Y minus 2 is equal to 1 by 0 x plus 5. Okay students, so this is our result. Now when we multiply this 0 with these two terms, the LHS part will become 0 here. So the equation will become 0 is equal to x plus 5, or we can say x is equal to minus 5, right? So x equals to, this implies x is equal to minus 5. Very simple, right? So can we match our answer here now? So here we can see that x is equal to minus 5. That means option number D is our answer here. Okay students, so let's take a quick look on this particular question. Here we have one point given and slope is m, which is 1 by 0 here, as the line is perpendicular to the y-axis. Okay, so any line which is passing through a point and a slope m is of this form, y minus y1 is equal to m into x minus x1. So by putting the values of x1 and y1 here and slope m is equal to 1 by 0, we will get x plus 5, which is equal to 0, and which is x equal to minus 5 here, right? So that was our question number 8. Now let's move forward towards our question number 9. So students, this is our question number 9 from 3D. Here we have points A and B, right? We have points A and B like this one, A, this is A point, which is basically 2 comma 2 comma 3, right? And this is B, let us say this is B point, which is 5 comma 2 comma minus 1, and we have to basically find the distance between these 2 points, right? We can find the distance between these 2 points. Okay, now we know the formula. If we have 2 points, right, x1, y1 and z1, and x2, y2 and z2, right? So distance between AB is given by root over x2 minus x1 whole square, x2 minus x1 whole square plus y2 minus y1 whole square plus z2 minus z1 whole square. Okay students, so this is our formula basically of distance between two points in three-dimensional. Now we have to just input our values here and just solve that, and we will get our answer like this one. AB equals to root over x2 is nothing but 5, so we can just put 5 minus 2 whole square, 5 minus 2 whole square plus 2 minus 2 whole square, okay, plus minus 1 minus 3 whole square. Okay, getting the point? So here we have x1 equals to what? See, I'll just write it for you. x1 equals to 2 and y1 equals to 2 and z1 is equal to 3, and here x2 is equal to 5 and y2 is equal to 2 and z2 is equal to minus 1. So simply just putting these values here in this particular formula which we have written here. Now just simplify that AB. Okay, we have to simplify that AB now. So here we will get AB equals to root over 3 square plus 0 square, obviously 2 minus 2 0, plus this is basically minus 1 minus 4 whole square, right? So minus 4 whole square. So this implies AB equals to root over 9 plus 16, right? 9 plus 16 equals to root over 25. So AB equals to root over 25. So this implies we get AB equals to 5 units. So we got our answer. That means the distance between AB is nothing but 5. So option number C is here, right? So our answer is option number C. So we get our answer here. So that was our question number 9. Now let's move forward towards our question number 10. So students, this is our question number 10, and here we have given 2a plus b upon a plus 4b is equal to 3, right? Here we have this one, right? So 2a plus b is equal to 3. Now we have to find this particular value. Now let's simplify this term first. Here 2a plus b whole upon a plus 4b equals to 3. Now multiplying this denominator with this 3, right? So we will get 2a plus b equals to 3 into a plus 4b, right? So 3 into a plus 4b. So here we get 2a plus b equals to 3a plus 12b, right? So this further implies, so let us take all these values towards the LHS and then simplify. So 2a plus b minus 3a minus 12b equals to 0. So 2a minus 3b is nothing but minus a. 2a minus 3a, sorry, is nothing but minus a, and b minus 12b is minus 11b, right, equals to 0. Or we can write it this way: a equals to minus 11b, right students? A is equal to minus 11b. So putting this value in the given problem, that means we have to find the value of a plus b upon a plus 2b, right? So we have to simply put the value of a is equal to minus 11b here, right? What we will get here? Minus 11b plus b upon minus 11b plus 2b, right? We'll get this one. Now minus 11b, simplifying the numerator here first, minus 11b plus b is nothing but minus 10b, right? Minus 10b upon minus 11b plus 2b is minus 9b, okay, minus 9b. So b got cancelled here and minus minus plus is there, right? So our answer is 10 upon 9. So we can just match our answer here. Now option number C we can see 10 upon 9 is there. So our answer is 10 upon 9. So that was our question number 10. Now let's move forward toward our question number 11. So students, this is our question number 11. here we have to find the value of sine 3 pi by 2, and we have to tell sine 3 pi by 2 is equivalent to which of the following options, right? So that means let us first understand the value of sine 3 pi by 2, where it lies basically, right? So this is 0 degree and this is pi by 2, this is pi, this is 3 pi by 2, right? And this is again 2 pi. Okay, so we have to find first, we should know that sine 3 pi by 2 equals to minus 1, right? And we have to see here, and we have to see that sine 3 pi by 2 is equivalent to which of the following option. Obviously sine pi by 2 is not equivalent to sine 3 pi by 2, so this options is wrong basically, right? Now let us see sine 9 pi by 2, where it lies actually, right? So this is sine 3 pi by 2, right? Sine 3 pi by 2, basically this point is an odd multiple of pi by 2, right? So that means if this is 3 pi by 2, then this is basically 5 pi by 2, right? Again and again, if we move towards this quadrant, then this particular point will be 7 pi by 2, right? 7 pi by 2. Then again if we move towards this, then this will be 9 pi by 2. Getting the point? 9 pi by 2. So here we have to find 3 pi by 2 obviously, right? So sine 3 pi by 2 is equivalent to what? 7 pi by 2 here. So that means our option number D is correct here. Getting the point? So 7 pi by 2, because sine 5 pi by 2, because sine 5 pi by 2 is nothing but here sine pi by 2 equal to sine pi by 2. So we can just write like sine 5 pi by 2, right? Sine 5 pi by 2 is equivalent to sine pi by 2, right? Which is further equal to sine 9 pi by 2. Okay students, therefore sine 3 pi by 2 is equivalent to basically sine 7 pi by 2. So that is our answer, and that was our question number 11. So now let's move forward towards our question number 12. So students, this is our question number 12 here. Here we have if 2 and 3 are both roots of a given polynomial. So that means it should be in the form of this one, right? A into x minus 2 into x minus 3, right? So where A is our leading coefficient, A is a constant and it is our leading coefficient, right? So any quadratic equation which is having root, let us say alpha and beta, should be, let us write basically the standard form. If alpha and beta are the roots of any equation, then it should be in the form of A into x minus alpha and x minus beta. Very simple. Okay students, so if we have this equation, that is A into x minus 2 and x minus 3, then the question is which of the following must be a factor of the polynomial. So obviously we have x minus 3 as a term here, so therefore x minus 3, that is option number C, should be a factor here, because x minus 3 equals to 0, that is x equal to 3 will give you a factor 3, right? And if we put x equals to 3 here, we will get 3 minus 3, which is equal to 0, and therefore this complete term, that is A into x minus 2, which is multiplied by 0 now, that should be equal to 0, and therefore we can say that x minus 3 will be a factor of this given polynomial. So students, that was our question number 12, and now let's move towards question number 13. So students, this is our question number 13. Here we have 4 graphs, right? A, B, C, D. And the question is like, which of the following is the graph of y is equal to mod x minus 1, right? So here I would like to elaborate this concept, and we will be discussing this on an application, right? And on that application you will be able to understand this concept more easily, and that will be more helpful to you as well, and you will be able to remember that concept for a longer period. So let's move towards our application and try to understand this concept of graph. So students, let us try to understand this concept here graphically. This is our application where we are going to draw few graphs where you will be able to understand this concept more easily. So let us plot first graph of y is equal to mod x. So let us put our input here, y equals to mod of x, right? So here we have a graph of y is equal to mod x, and we can see that this graph is not going towards the negative direction of y-axis. Why? Because the value of x, when we input the value of x, whether it is negative or positive, the value of y remains positive here, right? Now let us draw another graph here, y equals to mod of x plus 1, right? So y is equal to x plus 1 is in mod, both terms are in mod, right? So here we can see that the value of y will remain the same, but the value of x is reduced by 1 unit here, right? Why? Because x plus 1 is equal to 0, and if we put x plus 1 is equal to 0, we get x is equal to minus 1. That means minus 1 is a point where y is 0 here. So in our prior example where y is equal to mod x, where x equals to 0, when we put x equal to 0, then y is also 0, right? But in this case, when we put x equals to minus 1, then y equals to 0 here. So that is why minus 1 is a critical point here from where this graph bends in other direction. Getting the point? Now let us draw another example here of y is equal to, see, let us do input another here, y equals to mod of x minus 1. See, the third graph is showing that x unit is moved towards 1 unit in the positive direction, right? So therefore, why it is happened? It has happened because when we put x equals to 1 here, then y equals to 0. Very simple, right? So 1 is the critical point here from where the graph bends in another direction, right? The graph is moving in another direction when we put x equals to 1 here, right? Now let's plot another graph here. So let's try to understand this concept. So y is equal to mod of x plus 1, right? Y is equal to mod x plus 1. Here we can see that the graph has moved 1 unit upward towards the y-axis. Why? Because we have added 1 unit in the RHS of this graph, that means mod x. We have added 1 unit in mod x. So that is why the graph has moved 1 unit towards the positive direction of the y-axis. Now let us draw another graph of y is equal to mod x minus 1. Mod x of minus 1, right? So here we can see that we have reduced 1 unit from the y, from the value of y. So that is why the graph has moved 1 unit in the negative direction of the y-axis. So I think this concept is clear now. Now let us go towards our problem and see what is the answer. So students, so here question is y is equal to mod x minus 1, as you can see here. So therefore it is saying that our graph has the value of y which has reduced from 1 unit, right? Which has reduced 1 unit. So that is why this particular point is minus 1 on the y-axis, right? If y is equal to mod x, as we have already discussed, so the graph is going from this way, right, at this particular point, which is 0, 0. But as we have reduced 1 unit here from the y-axis, so therefore the graph will reach to this point, that is y is equal to minus 1, because minus 1 is a critical point, right? Minus 1, if you put minus 1 here, that is mod x, then the graph will become 0, that is 1 minus 1 equals to 0 here. Getting the point? So we have reduced, basically we have reduced the value in y here, like in y we have reduced the value here, so minus 1. Okay, if it is, let us say, plus 1, then the graph will be like this. That means we have moved 1 unit upwards on the y-axis, right? We can easily find out the solution of this one, y is equal to mod x minus 1. So here we can see that our option number B is matching with our answer, right? Because here minus 1, that means we have reduced 1 unit in the y-axis here, right? So therefore our answer is option number B. So that was our question number 13. Now let's move towards our question number 14. So students, this is our question number 14, and we have to find the value of r cos theta in terms of x and y here, right? So let us understand this concept here. If we have a triangle here, right, we can draw this particular triangle here. Let us say this angle is theta as given in the given figure, right? So this point is x comma y. So here x represent basically nothing but the value of x is this one, right? This is x, and the height of this is y, right? This is y. So and here hypotenuse is given as r. So we know that cos theta is equal to base upon hypotenuse. So here base is x and hypotenuse is r, right? So if we multiply this r with cos theta, obviously taking r in the LHS, r cos theta will give you equals to x here, right? R cos theta is equal to x. So we have our option number E, which is x, right? So here we can say that option number E is the required answer. That means r cos theta is equal to x, right? So students, this is our question number 14, and now let's move towards our question number 15. So students, this is our question number 15. Here we have a question like fx and f of g of 6 is given, right? This is basically concept of composition of the function. Let us discuss this concept first, right? So let us assume another function so that you will be able to understand this concept here. Let us take another example. Let us say fx equals to x plus 1 and gx equals to x square, right? So if we have to find f of g of x, then what we will do? We will just pick the value of gx, right? Input the value of gx here in fx, right? So here gx is nothing but x square, right? So we have to put x square in place of x in f of x. Very simple. So we will get x square plus 1. X square plus 1. This is basically f of g of x. So whenever you will face such type of problems, then what you have to do, just input the value of this function which is inside this bracket, right? That means here g of x is there, so just input g of x in place of x here in fx function, right? So here we have put the value of gx, which is x square, in f of x, right? So that's why we got our answer x square plus 1. Now let us assume we have to find g of f of x here. Then what will happen, right? So here again what we'll do, we will just pick the value of this fx inside the bracket, right? F of x. So f of x is nothing but x plus 1 here. So we have to input the value of fx in g of x where x square is there. So we will get what? X plus 1 whole square. So that is the basic concept of composition of function, right? So here we have to expand this and we will get x square plus 2x plus 1. So this is basically g of f of x, right? So on the basis of this we are going to try to solve this problem. Okay students, so now let's move forward, and here we have fx, right? So fx equals to 3x minus 1, right? And here we have f of g of 6, right? F of g of 6 is equal to minus half. So what we can do here, f of g of 6, that means in place of x, where in f of x, right, in place of x we can easily put g of 6 here. So what we will get here, we will get thrice of g of 6 minus 1 is equal to minus half. So what we have done here, we have applied this particular concept which we have discussed here in this particular part, right? So here we have put the value of g of 6 in f of x simply, right? That is why we got this thrice of g of 6 minus 1 is equal to minus half. Now we have to simplify further like this way. Thrice of g of 6 is equal to minus half plus 1, right? Minus half plus 1 is nothing but half. Very simple, right? Now we have to take this 3 towards RHS. Here it is in multiplication, so in RHS it will be in division, right? So g of 6 is equal to 1 upon 2 into 3, which is 1 by 6, right? So if g of 6 is equal to 1 by 6, g of 6 is equal to 1 by 6, that means g of x equals to 1 by x. Very simple. So we got the value of gx, that means g of x is equal to 1 by x here, right? So if we just find our answer in the options given, then we can easily find that option number B. We have option number B is 1 by x here, right? So 1 by x is our answer here. So that was our question number 15. Now let's move towards our question number 16. So students, this is our question number 16 from trigonometry, right? This is basically heights and distance problem. At a distance of 90 feet from a flagpole, right? So let us first understand the concept of this one, right? So let us assume a pole, or you can say a tower is there, right? Let us assume this is AB. AB is a tower and a person is standing there. Let us assume a person is standing here at point C and his angle of elevation. So this angle will be let us say alpha, right? So this angle will be angle of elevation and this is alpha, right? So this is basically the distance between this pole and this person. So let us assume this is D. D is the distance and H is the height of the pole. Very simple, right? So if we have, let us say, if we have angle alpha, then we can write like, let us say tan alpha is equal to H upon D. Very simple, right? So if we have the value of H here and alpha here, then we can easily find the value of AC, which is the distance between the person and the pole, right? And if we have the value of D given, that means the distance between A and C is given, then easily, and alpha is also given, then easily we can find the value of AB, right? So let us start the question now. At a distance of 90 feet from the flagpole, that means here AC, that means D is equal to 90 feet is given, right? 90 feet is given and the angle alpha is 60 degree. Angle alpha is equal to 60 degree. So what we require here, assuming the flagpole is perpendicular to the ground, right? Perpendicular. So what is the height? So we have to find the height here, right? So we have already discussed the basic concept of this problem. So now we have to just input the values here, right? So tan alpha, so that means tan alpha, that is tan 60 degree. Tan 60 degree is equal to H. Let us assume H, right? Height of this pole is H and D is given, right? D is 90 feet. So this further implies H equals to 90 into tan of 60 degrees. So what is the value of tan 60 degrees, right? So tan 60 degrees is root 3, right? So 90 into root 3. So 90 root 3 is our answer. That means height of the tower is 90 root 3, or we can say height of the pole is 90 root 3. So that means our option number D is here, right? Option number D is correct. So that was our question number 16. Now let's move towards question number 17. So students, this is our question number 17, and here we have one graph like y is equal to gx, right? And we have to tell which of the following function shows the graph of y is equal to mod of gx, right? So let us first understand what sort of graph is it. Like y is equal to gx is a parabolic graph, and what are the different types of graphs of parabola, right? So that your concept will be clear here. So y is equal to x square. Let us assume this one, right? So y is equal to x square. This graph will be like this one. Y is equal to x square. This graph will be opening towards upward, right? Opening upward, right? And this graph will pass through origin 0, 0. So this is x square, y is equal to x square. So this graph will look like this. Now if we have like y is equal to minus of x square, then your graph will open downward, right? See, these are the basic concept I am telling you here. So if you face such problem in examination, then you will easily be able to find out which type of graph is it, right? Whether it is y is equal to x square, or whether it is y is equal to minus x square, or whether it is y square is equal to x. So in this case, the graph will open towards right. So this is y square is equal to x, and in this case y square is equal to minus x, or we can say x is equal to minus y square. The graph will open towards right? So this is a parabola with which will pass through the origin, right? So this is passing through the origin. So these are the basic graphs of parabola, and we have 4 types of parabolas here, right, which are passing through the origin, having vertex at origin, right? So let us move towards our application and find out what will happen to the graph if this is in mod function, right? So let us start our application now. So students, this is our application, and let us try to draw some graph here first, right? So let us draw y equals to x raised to the power 2, right? So this is y is equal to x square. So here we can see that this graph is having basically 2 roots, but both the roots are same. Okay, so let us try to input some more values so that we will be getting 2 values of our roots, right? So let us put x square minus 4. Let us say let x square minus 4. So this is the basically graph which we are having, like y is equal to gx in our question. Okay, so here we have 2 roots, minus 2 and 2, and now we have to find out what will happen if this graph, that means function x square minus 4, is in mod. Okay, is in mod. So that means the value which we are seeing here, that means the graph which is moving towards the negative direction of the y-axis will stop at the x-axis only, and it won't move towards the negative direction of the y-axis. So let us see what will happen to the graph. So here we can input, or we can just draw another graph. Y is equal to mod of x raised to the power 2 and minus 4. Okay, so you can easily see that what happened to the graph now. Okay, so what has happened to the graph now? So here we can see the critical point remains the same. That means the value of y remains 0 at minus 2 and 2, but as the graph is in modulus function, so it won't go towards the negative direction of the y-axis. So here we can see that graph won't move towards the negative direction of the y-axis, and at minus 2 and 2 it stops and start moving in other direction, that is in the positive direction of y. So this is our required graph of y is equal to x square minus 4 whole mod, right? So I think you have understood this concept here, and let us move towards our question now. So students, we can easily find out that what has happened to our graph here now, right? So in our graph, y is equal to mod of gx, we got like this one, right? This is minus 2 and this is 2. So our graph was like this one, right? It will go towards this, but at this point it will move like it, right? It won't go towards the negative direction of y-axis, and it will move towards the positive direction of y-axis from minus 2 and 2 again, right? So if we are going to match our this particular graph, so then we can find that option number A is the required result, right? Option number A is the required result. So we can say that option A is our required answer. So here we have basically assumed that minus 2 and 2, right? We have assumed our point as minus 2 and 2, but logically the graph will be like this one only, option number A, right? Because we don't have the value given in this particular question, but the pattern of the graph remains the same. So that was our question number 17. Now let's move towards our question number 18. So students, this is our question number 18. A function is given like fx equals to x plus 1 by x, then we have to find the value of f of x plus x cube plus thrice of f of 1 by x, right? We have to tell which option is correct. So let us move forward and first write the function which is given here, right? So here we have f of x equals to x plus 1 by x, right? So let us find f of x cube first, right? F of x cube, that means we have to input x cube where? In place of x here, right? In place of x we have to input x cube. So our question will become x cube plus 1 by x cube. Very simple, right? We can just denote it by 1. Now in the second case, that means thrice of f of 1 by x, we have to find thrice of f of 1 by x. Thrice of f of 1 by x is nothing but we have to replace x in place of, obviously we have to replace x with 1 by x. So thrice of 1 by x plus, in place of x 1 by x, in place of 1 upon x it will become 1 upon 1 by x, then this x will go in the numerator. So our question will be like this, right? 1 upon x plus x, right? So this is basically thrice of 1 by x plus x. So what it says basically, let us say this is second equation, right? So if we write the sum of these two, if we write the sum of f of x cube, see here, f of x cube plus thrice of f of 1 by x, right? F of 1 by x, this is equal to basically what? This is equal to x cube plus 1 by x cube plus thrice of, let us put it here, 1 by x plus x, right? So if we check our answer, we are not getting anything here, right? We are not getting anything here. Why? Because we have to simplify further. Okay, here we have 3, right? Here we have 3. So can we write this 3 into x into 1 by x like this one? So let us do some clarity here. 3 into, we have written this way, thrice of 1 by x into x, right? Thrice of 1 by x into x here. So obviously 1 by x got cancelled with this x, right? We will get 3 only. So in place of 3 we have written 3 into x upon 1 by x. So if we compare this with formula, let us say a cube plus b cube plus 3ab into a plus b. So this is basically what? A plus b whole cube, right? A plus b whole cube. So here we have a is what? X, and b is 1 by x. Very simple, right? So our answer will become x plus this entire term, this entire term will become this, x plus 1 by x whole cube, right? X plus 1 by x whole cube. So if we now compare it with our question, here it is given f of x whole cube. So what was f of x? F of x was x plus 1 by x. So f of x, that means x plus 1 by x, is raised to the power 3, is basically nothing but f of x whole cube, right? So our option number C is correct here, right? Option number C is correct here. So I think you have got your answer now. So that was our question number 18. Now let's move towards question number 19. So students, this is our question number 19. Here we have fx. So let us write it down. Fx is given here, right? So f of x equals to 1 upon 2x plus 1, right? We have this one. So now we have to find the value of f of fx, right? So simply what we'll do here, we have to just write down f of x. We have to find out this one, right? So we have to put the value of fx in place of this x, right? So we will get this way, 1 upon 2 into 1 upon 2x plus 1, right? Obviously in place of x we have to put the value of fx, which is 1 upon 2x plus 1. Now we have to simplify the denominator here. Very simple, right? So what we'll do here, just write it like this way, 2 upon 2x plus 1, right? So now taking the LCM here, we will get 2x plus 1. Now here we will get 2 obviously, plus here we will get 2x plus 1, right? So what we'll get here now, 2 plus 1 is 3. So 3 plus 2x upon 2x plus 1, right? So here we got our answer in the denominator, right? Now what we'll do, we have to just take this 2x plus 1 on the numerator, right? At numerator we will get our answer like 2x plus 1 upon 3 plus 2x, right? So can we compare our answer with the given options now? 2x plus 1 upon 3 plus 2x. 2x plus 1 upon 3 plus 2x. Yes, option number B is correct here, right? Option number B, we can just check it out here. Option number B will match with our answer 2x plus 1. So that was our question number 19. Now let's move towards question number 20. So students, this is our question number 20, and here we have to find the domain of the given function, right? So domain of the given function. Domain is basically what? Domain is the value of domain. Domain is basically the value of the input. That means in value of x where the function should be defined. The function is defined. Very simple, right? Let us take small example here. Let us say we have a function, let us say y is equal to 1 by x or fx equals to 1 by x, right? So what will be the domain in this case? Here we can see that if x equals to 0, then this function is not defined. Like this function will become 1 by 0, and if we put any real values here, let us say r, then the function is defined except 0. So we can say the domain belongs to all real numbers except 0 here, right? Similarly, let us take another simple example so that your concept will be clear about the domain. So 1 upon x minus 1. Here we can see if we put the value of x equals to 1, then the function will become 1 by 0, right? Therefore, except the value of x equal to 1, if we see here, then all real values should satisfy here. In this case, we can say that our domain belongs to all real except what? Value 1, right? I think your concept is clear now regarding the domain. Let us take some more examples so that this concept will be more clear to you, right? So let us take another example. If fx equals to 1 upon, right, 1 upon root x, right, 1 upon root x. In this case, you can say that if x equal to 0, right, if x is equal to 0, then the function is not defined. But here we have to consider the square root as well. In the square root, x should be always positive. So therefore, we have to write that x here should be greater than 0, not equal to 0 but greater than 0. So that means our domain of this function will become from 0 to infinite, right? From 0 to infinite, and 0 should be exclusive, right? Also infinity is exclusive here, so 0 is excluded here. So that is why, so why 0 is excluded here? Because if you put 0 here, the function is not defined, right? So this was another example. In this case, let us take another example here. Let us take fx equals to root x, right? Fx equals to root x. So in this case also we can say that x should be greater than 0, right? Should be greater than 0, but in this particular case x can be 0 as well, because if x is 0, the function is 0, which is defined, right? So in this case our answer will be like this. The domain of this function is nothing but 0 inclusive and 0 to infinity, right? So our domain will be like this one. I think the concept regarding the domain is more clear to you, right? We have to consider the value of x, that means the input of x, where the function should not be defined, right? If the function is not defined at any particular point, then we have to exclude that point, and all other values of x will be our domain, right? Now let's move towards this question. So students, here we have the function like fx, right? So students, here we have the function like fx equals to root over 16 minus x square, right? As the function is in root, so we have to write like this way: 16 minus x square should be what? Greater than equal to 0, right? As we have already discussed this one, 16 minus x square should be greater than equal to 0. So in this case 16 is greater than equal to x square, right? And x square is what? So here x will be greater than equal to minus 4 and less than equal to 4. Okay, we have two critical points here. Why? Because x square is equal to 16. So this implies x is equal to plus minus root over 16, which is 4 square. So x is equal to plus minus 4, right? Plus minus 4 here. So x should lie between minus 4 and 4 here. So the domain is fixed here. Why it is lying between minus 4 and 4? Why it is not like 5, right? Let us take an example here on this particular question as well. Let us assume the value of 5. So if we put the value 5 here in the given function, that is 16 minus 5 square, right, in the root. So this will become negative, right? Because if we subtract 16 from 25, right, from negative of 25, we will get less than 0 here. Similar case, if we take value minus 5, then also our question will remain same. That means minus 5 whole square is equal to 16 minus 25, right? So this is again also less than 0. So any value after minus 4 and any value after plus 4 will give us a negative value in the square roots. Therefore our domain is restricted between minus 4 and 4 here. Students, I would like to explain you this concept diagrammatically as well. So let us understand this concept diagrammatically. Okay, I think this concept is more clear to you. Now let us understand this concept diagrammatically. So students, if we put y is equal to root over 16 minus x square, right? We have to find the domain here. So squaring both sides. If we do square both sides, then we will get this way, right? Y square is equal to 16 minus x square, and so this implies x square plus y square is equal to 16 can be written as 4 square, right? Or we can write this way, x minus 0 whole square plus y minus 0 whole square equals to 4 square. So students, this equation is basically the standard equation of a circle, right? Standard equation of a circle. This circle is having center at 0, 0 and radius 4 units, right? So if we draw this circle, we will get this circle like this one. Okay, we will get this circle like this one. All right, and the radius of this one is what? Minus 4. Obviously x unit is minus 4 and plus 4, right? So this circle can't be extended towards this way, that means after 4 units, and this circle can't be extended before this unit, right? So what is the maximum and the minimum value of x here? Minimum value is minus 4 and maximum value is 4. So that means minus 4 comma 4 is the required domain of this circle, right? Domain of this question. Similarly, right, we have already discussed this in the previous concept as well. Now I think you have understood this concept diagrammatically as well, right? In this diagram, the value of x can't be extended after minus 4 and plus 4. So I hope you have understood this concept. So here our answer is minus 4 comma 4, which is option number D here, right students? So I think your concept is clear now. Now let's move towards our question number 21. So students, this is our question number 21. Here we have to find the range of the given function, right? So in case of range, what we have to do basically, we have to convert, let us say this one, right? If y is equal to, let us assume x minus 2 upon 3 minus x, right? Here y is written in terms of x. Now what we have to do here, we have to just convert this in terms of y. We have to write x in terms of y, and later on we will discuss about the function range, right? So how to find the range of this function. So first step is to convert this function in what? In terms of y. So let us do first. So here we can write it this way, thrice 3 minus x into y is equal to x minus 2, right students? So here we can write 3y minus xy equals to x minus 2, right? So this further implies 3y plus 2 equals to x plus xy, right students? So this implies 3y plus 2 equals to x into 1 plus y, and this further implies x, let us take it towards LHS, right? So x into 1 plus y equals to thrice of y plus 2. So this implies x equals to 3y plus 2 upon 1 plus y. Very simple, right? So we got x in terms of y here. Now what we have to do? We have to just see what is the domain of this one. What is the domain of this function where this function is defined? So the domain of this one, that is the value of those y where the function is defined here, that will be our range of this particular function. Very simple. So here we can see that in the denominator, if we put y equals to minus 1 here, if we put y is equal to minus 1, then this denominator will become 0. This denominator will become 0. Otherwise, on all the values, at all the values, that means at all other real values of y, our function is defined. In this case, we can say that the range of the function belongs to all real values except minus 1. All real values except minus 1. So this is our range. Okay students, so what we have done, basically we have converted our function in terms of y, and the function which we got here, we have found the domain of this particular function here. The domain of this function is basically the range. That means the value of those y where the function is defined, and we got our answer where all real except minus 1, right? So if we check our answer in the options, we will get option number D is our answer. So option number D is our answer. So that was our question number 21. Now let's move towards question number 22. Students, so this is our question number 22, which is of trigonometry. Here we have a function like tan theta. So just let us write it down here, right? So tan theta plus cot theta whole upon tan theta minus cot theta, right? Tan theta minus cot theta. So this is equal to 2, and our theta is lying between where? In the first quadrant, right? 0 to 90 degrees. Now we have to find the value of sin theta here. So what we will do here, whenever you will see the problem like this, a plus b upon a minus b equals to some constant, right? Here these terms are same, a and b, right? But the sign is different here, plus and minus. So what you will do, you just use componendo and dividendo. Componendo and dividendo, right? Dividendo. So this is the property in ratio property, right? So what is this basically? This is basically if a upon b equals to c upon d, so this implies a plus b upon a minus b equals to c plus d upon c minus d beta, right? So here what we can do, here we have tan theta plus cot theta, right? So tan theta plus cot theta, right, is our a numerator. So we can add just denominator, right? Tan theta plus cot theta plus tan theta minus cot theta, right? Minus cot theta. We can just write 2 as 2 upon 1, right? 2 upon 1 e upon now a minus b. This is tan theta plus cot theta minus tan theta minus cot theta, right, equals to 2 plus 1 upon 2 minus 1, right? So this will become a plus b, as we have already discussed this property, a plus b upon a minus b is equal to c plus d upon c minus d, right? Now we can see what are those terms which are getting cancelled here. Cot theta is got cancelled with this one, right? Similarly in the denominator, if we see, if we open this bracket, then tan theta will become negative here and cot theta will become positive here. Therefore tan theta will got cancelled and cot theta will become 2 cot theta, and similarly in the numerator we will get 2 tan theta upon denominator will get 2 cot theta, right? So 2 cot theta is equal to 3 upon 1. Okay, so these two also got cancelled. Now what we'll do, we will just simplify tan theta as sin theta upon cos theta and cot theta as cos theta upon sin theta. So let us write it here. So our question will become like sin theta upon cos theta, which is the numerator tan theta, and denominator is cot theta, which is cos theta by sin theta. Okay, so this is equal to 3 by 1, right students? So this sin theta will go towards in the numerator and this cos theta will go in the denominator, and our question will become sin theta into sin theta is nothing but sin square theta upon cos square theta is equal to 3 or 3 upon 1, right? So now our question is sin square theta upon cos square theta is equal to 3, and we can write it like this way. I'll just highlight it, right? We can write this here now, right? Here. So sin square theta, we have to multiply 3 with cos square theta now, right? So we can just write this one as sin square theta equals to 3 cos square theta. Okay, now we can convert cos square theta into sin square theta as we require the value of sin theta. So this will become 3 into 1 minus sin square theta, 1 minus sin square theta, right? So this further implies sin square theta equals to 3 minus 3 sin square theta, right students? Now what we will do, just simplify it. I am just deleting this part. Now what we'll do, just write down like this way, sin square theta, combining the sin square terms, right? Sin square theta plus 3 sin square theta equals to 3 sin square theta is equal to 3, right? So in the LHS it will become 4 sin square theta, 4 sin square theta is equal to 3. So this implies sin square theta equals to 3 by 4, and this implies sin theta is equal to root over 3 by 4, right? Root over 3 by 4, which is equal to root 3 by 2, right? This is equal to root 3 by 2. Why we have neglected the negative sign? Because our theta is lying between 0 and 90 degrees. That means sin theta is lying in the first quadrant where theta is positive, right? So we got our answer root 3 by 2, and we know that sin theta is root 3 by 2. That implies theta equals to what? So we will get theta is equal to nothing but this is 60 degrees, right? Which is pi by 3, pi by 3, right? Theta is equal to pi by 3, or we basically we have to find the values of sin theta. So sin theta is equal to root 3 by 2. So we got our answer, which is option number B, and our theta is basically pi by 3. We can say that, right? So our option is P is the correct answer here. So I hope you understood this concept as well. Here we have applied the componendo and dividendo of ratio proportion property, right? So that was our question number 22. Now let's move towards question number 23. So students, so this is our question number 23 from complex numbers, right? So here what we have to find, we have to find this value, right? 1 minus iota raised to the power 4, where iota is nothing but root over minus 1, right, of complex number. So let us do one thing. Let us just expand this like this way, 1 minus iota whole square raised to the power 2, right? So if we expand this bracket, we will get 1 minus 2 iota plus iota square, right, raised to the power 2. So iota square is nothing but minus 1. So we will get 1 minus 2 iota minus 1 whole square. So this is equal to 1 got cancelled here. We will get minus 2 iota raised to the power 2, which is equal to minus 2 whole square into iota square, right? So this is basically minus 2 square is 4 and iota square is iota square, right? So this is equal to 4 into iota square is minus 1. So this is equivalent to minus 4. right? So if we match our answer here, we will get option number D, right? See, option number D is -4. So that was our question related to the complex number, which was question number 23. Now let's move towards our question number 24. So students, this is another question on complex number. Here we have to find the least positive value of n if 1 plus iota upon 1 minus iota raised to the power, which is given here, right? This one is equal to 1, right? So what we'll do here, we will just rationalize this problem first, right? 1 plus iota upon 1 minus iota. We can rationalize the denominator first, right? So we can write it this way: 1 plus iota upon 1 plus iota, right? So in the numerator we get 1 plus iota whole square, 1 plus iota whole square, whole upon 1 minus iota into 1 plus iota is nothing but a square minus b square, a square minus iota square, right? So in the numerator we get 1 plus iota square plus 2 iota whole upon 1 minus, now iota square is what? Minus 1. So in the numerator we get 1 minus 1 because iota square is minus 1 plus 2 iota whole upon 1 plus 1, right? So here 1 got cancelled here and we get 2 iota upon 2, which is equal to iota only, right? Now our question has become iota raised to the power n equals to 1. So what will be the minimum value of n, right? Minimum value of n. So we know that if we put iota raised to the power 4, this is basically what? Plus 1. So that means minimum value of n should be 4. So option number A is our correct option here. So I hope you understood this concept as well. Now let's move towards our question number 25. So students, this is our question number 25 and we have to find the fifth term of this particular progression, right? So how we can find this one? So first we have to find whether it is an arithmetic progression or a geometric progression. So simply we can see that this is not an arithmetic progression because the difference of two consecutive terms is not the same here, right? So let us try with the geometric progression here. Okay, as an homework you can do this way, right? To find the arithmetic progression, how to find the arithmetic progression? Let us say if three numbers are in AP, then b minus a should be equal to c minus b, right? So you can easily find out that these first three terms are not in arithmetic progression, right students? Now let us find out whether it is a GP or not, right? So let us take the ratio like this: b upon a should be equal to c upon b, right? If three terms are in GP, that means a, b, c are in GP, then this ratio should follow. So here a is our first term, which is 1, b is this term, right? B is the second term and c is the this term, c is the this third term, right? So b by a is nothing but root 2 minus 1 upon 2 root 3. Okay students, so this is our first ratio. We can write it like this way. Okay, now we have to find c by b. So c is nothing but c minus 3 minus 3 minus 2 root 2, 3 minus 2 root 2 upon 12 and whole upon root 2 minus 1 upon 2 root 3, right? Now this root 2 root 3 will come to the numerator and this 12 will come to the denominator, and our question will become like this way. Our term will become 3 minus 2 root 2 into 2 root 3, right? 2 root 3 upon 12 into root 2 minus 1. Very simple, right? So our term has become like this one. Now this 2 got cancelled with this 12. Here we will get 6 obviously, right? Now what we can do? We can just simplify this root 2 minus 1 from the denominator. Okay, we can just rationalize this denominator by multiplying root 2 plus 1 with the numerator and denominator as well. Okay students, now what we can do here, like 3 minus 2 root 2 into, now this root 3 can also get cancelled with this 6. How? We can write 6 as root 3 into root 3 into 2, right? Because root 3 into root 3 is 3 and this multiplied by 2 is 6, right? So we'll get this one. Now root 2 minus 1 into root 2 plus 1 is nothing but a square minus b square, which is 2 minus 1, right? And in the numerator we get root 3 into root 2 plus 1, right students? So we got this one. Now what? We can cancel this root 3 with this particular root 3, and this 2 minus 1 is 1. So we will get our term like this one, right? We can write here 3 minus 2 root 2 into root 2 plus 1, root 2 plus 1, right? Root 2 plus 1 upon 2 root 3 into 1, obviously, right? 2 root 3 into 1. So basically what we can do here, we can just refer our previous ratio b by a here. See, here we have in the denominator 2 root 3, we got 2 root 3, and now if we simplify the numerator, we should get root 2 minus 1, obviously. Now what we'll do here, we will just multiply these two terms. First is 3 into root 2, 3 root 2, right? 3 root 2 plus 3. Now minus 2 root 2 with root 2 is minus 4. Minus 4 and minus 2 root 2 with 1 is minus 2 root 2. Very simple, right? Now 3 minus 4 is minus 1 and 3 root 2 minus 2 root 2 is only root 2. We are now simplifying the numerator part only, right? So we will get root 2 minus 1 here after simplifying. Upon denominator is 2 root 3, and now we can see that our ratio, see here ratio is the same here, right? 1. Now since our ratio are same, then we can say that this is a GP. Now the fifth term of this progression, we have to use the general formula of the terms, right? Tn. So Tn is basically a into r raised to the power n minus 1, right students? This is the general term or nth term of a GP. Here ratio r is the common ratio which we got here, root 2 minus 1 upon 2 root 3, and a is our first term which is 1. Very simple. Now we have to find which term, n equals to fifth term, obviously. So here we write T5 equals to a is 1 and r is root 2 minus 1 upon 2 root 3 whole raised to the power 5 minus 1, right? 5 minus 1 is equal to 4. Okay, so whole raised to the power 4. Now we can write here like T5 equals to root 2 minus 1 whole raised to the power 4 upon 2 root 3 whole raised to the power 4, right students? Whole raised to the power 4. And now if we compare our answer, then we can easily say that this will be our answer, right? Option number B, because there is no other option in the numerator where root 2 minus 1 is available, right? Root 2 minus 1 is available, but the power is 3 here. See, our power is 4, so this is matching with this part. Power is 4 here, right? So we can say that option number B is our answer. There is no requirement to find this value here, right? So that was our question number 25, and we will move further in our next video with question number 26. And if you like this video, please share this video, subscribe our channel. Thank you so much.